Welcome to the Northpoint Guys podcast. Nina fulaha kuahapaleo. My name is Josiah Smith.
And my name is Michael Scott. And we have an exciting episode for you today.
We do. Jumbo.
I really want to know what you just
Jumbo.
said.
I don't remember.
Oh,
no.
okay.
Okay. I believe what I said is we're glad that you are here with us today.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Well, Josiah, if I'm allowed to have favorite people, I don't know if I am allowed, but
Debatable.
There's people I just really like being around.
Sure.
Our guest today is somebody that I absolutely love to be around. Every time I'm around him, I'm encouraged. I love hearing his story. He is a man that it's one of those, when you talk to him, he spent time with Jesus that day.
This is true.
And so I am excited to introduce to you our friend, Northpoint student, Eddie Mungai. Thanks for joining us today.
I think it is okay too, because I think everyone would say Eddie is their favorite. So Eddie,
no one is fighting me on this. No one will disagree. Like, Eddie is just an incredible guy who loves Jesus, and he's a joy to be around.
I hope this whole time that the camera's on him while we're saying this.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Eddie, we're glad you're with us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I attempted to say Nina fulaha kuahapaleo. I think does it mean we're glad that you're here today?
So typically it's a singular form though. So it's not, if you wanted to say like in plural, you would have said tuna furaha. But now you said Nina furaha, that indicates you alone. So you're a bit selfish, but
I'm glad to be here today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here today.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here today.
Right. Okay. So that was my attempt at Swahili.
Yeah, that's Swahili.
But
yes.
Okay.
But
so Eddie, you know Swahili, but it's not your first language.
No, it's not.
Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Kenya.
I'm
from Kenya, and so in Kenya, what happens is that so Kenya is one of the countries in Africa, located in the Eastern Africa, and it's sometimes some funny when I'm having conversation with some people from the West, and they think Africa is one big country.
Yeah, we're sorry about that. We're sorry about that.
We're working on our educational system.
Americans,
I'm sorry.
So Africa really is it's a continent like South Africa, South America, North America,
right? And
it's made up of different countries speaking different languages. We actually have over 1,000 native languages all across Africa.
Wow.
So Kenya is in the eastern part of Africa. And so when you now come to geographic locations, we split Kenya into counties, what you guys probably would call like states.
Okay.
But they're not as big as the United States.
Sure.
And then from the counties, we go to sub-counties. And then from sub-counties, we have towns. And now in the previous years, we used to have like locations, sub-locations, villages.
Okay.
So Eddie is from Kenya. Central Kenya.
What county and sub-county?
So I'm from born and raised in Kiambu County.
Kiambu County. Okay.
Kiambu
and
County.
And the language you speak would be, did you say? Nope, I can't remember. Go ahead.
So my native mother language is Kikuyu.
Kikuyu. Okay,
yes,
I was
Kikuyu.
going to be close. All right.
Yes.
So Kikuyu, and you speak Swahili.
I speak Swahili, I speak Kikuyu, and I speak English.
And obviously you speak English.
Definitely.
Wow. Well, you may be the most educated person at the table here.
Not
in
really.
terms of linguistics.
Maybe when we look at languages, probably.
So let's. So you grew up in Kenya, and in a little bit we'll ask you how you came to be here at Northpoint. But you're here at Northpoint now. You're studying ministry to be a minister, and you've been a big part of our chapels and leading our prayer team this past year. How were you initially introduced to Jesus, and when did you make that commitment to follow him and surrender your life to him?
Well, that's an interesting question because I was born and raised in a Christian family.
Okay.
I grew up all my life knowing, hearing about Jesus, really. But so my dad and mom, they introduced me to church while I was still young. But I remember in my early years, something happened in church. I wasn't quite knowledgeable enough to know what's really going on. But I remember dad and mom quitted church. They were not going to church anymore. But I think I had gotten to a level of loving church, loving the people, loving the other children. And so I kept on going to church. And so I grew up knowing the church environment. And so I could participate in various, different teams. But when I was in my second year of high school, that's now when the reality hit me. That's when I realized that just being to church does not mean that you're born again.
Mhm.
That there's more into just being a church goer, just being a church member. And that's now when I made that personal commitment. And actually what happened is that we had this minister who came to preach in our school. And mind you, that time I was actually even serving in the Christian Union in our school.
Okay. Yeah.
Because, well, like by God's grace, no, you know, like I was just this naive guy who didn't love too much trouble, and so probably people thought I would make up a good prayer coordinator even that time.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
So I was serving in that office, and then I realized that I'm serving in this office and I'm actually doing my duties, but I wasn't really born again. I hadn't really confessed faith from a personal level.
Okay.
And so we were challenged, of course, to be born again, and you know, the Holy Spirit just convicted me that this is the time, this is the hour, and there I was, my second year in high school. That was around 2008, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did it look like? So you said your second year of high school?
Yes.
What did it look like then throughout the rest of your high school time?
Well,
Growth in Christ?
it was really amazing because now serving with an understanding, I was now serving from a point of personal relationship with Christ, and I was not now doing it, you know, for the sake of just being elected or put there to serve these people. I was now doing it out of passion because now I got to a place of developing a connection with Christ at my own decision and I just volunteering to do that. So and that really opened up so many doors, including after high school, I was placed in charge of the teenagers during that time. I was still a young man. I'm still a young man even today. And so I was put in charge of the teens in our church. Like as I grew up in the youth, I was put up in charge of the youth, the youth chairman, etc. And so it really, I would say, placed quite a firm foundation for me to really serve well and serve from a point of understanding and really be able to deliver to people what I now have, because I realized you cannot give what you don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Reminds me of John Wesley a little bit, actually. I don't know if you know John Wesley's story, but he served as a minister, maybe the Church of England. I don't remember what church it was, but served as a minister for a long time before he actually came to this encounter with Christ. He had met some Moravians. I believe he was on his way to America and met the Moravians, and they record it as him saying his heart was strangely warmed. And he counts that his conversion experience when he actually came to know Christ, rather than just teaching about Christ.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true. That's
so-
true. I mean, it's more like the way Job says it. Like, man, you know what? I used to hear about you, but now I have seen you. Like, I know you for myself.
Yeah.
Like, I've now known you for myself.
Yeah.
So while serving in the church, what's causing you to now have this passion to serve as a pastor, to pursue that call into ministry?
Well, I would say I never grew up desiring really to be a minister or rather a pastor. I used to run away from that thing because my friends used to call me so. I don't know why. Maybe, I don't know, for some reason. And I always didn't want to be referred to as like a pastor. But I really remember I did just have, I had passion, like passion for God, really, because that's what I grew knowing. And I remember when I was, I think, either 5 or something, my first memory verse to recite, which I did in a church. And that was my first, actually, I would say, public speaking in a church congregation. And I remember it was so nice. I really remember it even to this day. It was Psalms 121, verse 1. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. No. Actually, I look up into the mountains. Where will my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. So I said that, and people were so excited in the church, and I was like, wow, I mean, I just made all these people so happy. And so a certain parent who had carried some pancakes for their child, and I didn't have any lunch carried for me, by my mom. And, she actually shared some of her kids' pancakes with me. I mean, she was so excited. And so I guess now from that time, just pursuing the things of God, and also like kind of seeing how things were at home, as I told you and I mentioned earlier that along the way, my parents, like they got back. And so I now could see the life that they are living. And of course, which was not so pleasing to me. And the society also that I was brought up in, the young men there and the old men. I would say growing up, I never had a mentor. I never had someone I could look up to. And so probably it's the desire to be that one who someone else can look up to. It's the desire to fill in a gap that I missed. Like I found a gap and I was like, maybe I could be the one to fill this gap.
Okay.
because I didn't have
Yeah.
someone I could look up to. I never had someone who would like really direct me and tell me, hey, this is how boys behave. If you want to be a responsible man, this is how you become. This is how you go through life, and this is how you attain, responsibility and stuff like that. And so I guess it was because of that vacuum, really, that I just had a passion to be the man, like to be an example, because I didn't see that example.
Yeah.
And it was really something I would say molded me. At one point in high school, I remember our home science teacher. She used to pass by our home place. And so she knew how the villages, as I told you, it was divided into villages. And so one time she's like, hey, Edward, I just want us to have a conversation. Like, I just want to know you more. The way you carry yourself and the way you are in school. I mean, you stand out, like you're different. So where do you come from? Where is your home? And so I'm telling her about my home place. And she's like, nah, you're not telling me the truth. You're lying. Like, that's not your home place. And I'm like, I mean, you just asked me where my home place is, and I'm telling you where my home place is. Right. And so she's like, and I asked her, so why do you think I'm not telling the truth? And she said, because I know that place.
Wow.
I know the young men of that place.
Wow.
I know the life that people live in that place. And I can't see any of that in you.
Wow. What a testimony.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was really amazing.
Yeah. No, and that is a beautiful testimony of God's work in your life.
Absolutely.
One, that you had the desire to to impact others, that you wanted to put others before yourself, and then the fact that she saw that was amazing.
Yeah.
So, and what was the county called again that you're from?
Kiambu County.
Kiambu, okay.
Yeah, Kiambu County.
And
it's in central Kenya.
Central Kenya, okay.
Yes.
And there's a rift there nearby, isn't there? Something like
yeah. So we have this
Valley or something.
It's called the Rift Valley.
The Rift Valley.
The Rift Valley. Okay. So the Rift Valley is actually an extension. It's not only in Kenya. It cuts across Kenya, though. Taking a huge part of the I think towards the west Kenya, but now in between thereabout.
Okay.
So in the Rift Valley, we have different counties that fall into it. We have different lakes that fall into it, and actually now where we stay is the only lake in the Rift Valley that is freshwater lake. Oh. Yeah, where I personally where my wife is right now.
Yeah.
It's a unique place also called Naivasha.
Okay.
Yeah, Naivasha is also part of a different county from Kiambu County.
So Kiambu is, what county are we in? I haven't lived here long enough. We are in
Essex.
Well, anyway.
Oh, it's just somewhere.
Yeah, Kiambu County is a long way from Essex County. So how did you hear about Northpoint? How did you get from there to here?
Oh my goodness, that's also a very, very interesting story, and it tickles me every time I give that story.
And if you didn't catch it earlier, viewers, he mentioned his wife,
which we definitely will need to come back to. We will definitely need to come back to.
There is a wife involved here. Now let's get to this story.
There might be a couple other special.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So Northpoint. I mean, Northpoint was nowhere in my dreams. It was nowhere in my vocabulary. I never knew a school called Northpoint, and this goes way back 2019 backwards. So pulling back now in 2018, that's when again I got married in 2018. So really all this thing is tied in between the whole marriage thing.
Okay.
So what happened is that typically how young men get married at home, you identify a girl, you like her, and then probably you just tell your friends, so you're my friends now, and say, hey, I think I like that girl. And then so once we are friends, so we say, hey, do you know her? Like, do you have an idea? Could she be a good one? We just talk like friends. Uh-huh. And so now once it's settled among us, now I'm like, hey, I would go and approach her. Now once we call it in the box. Now once she gets in my box.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so once she gets into my box, so now I'll proceed to inform now who I feel they need to know. My parents, I need to let my parents know. Okay. I need to let my pastors know. And now she also needs to let her parents know. Mm-hmm. And so when she does that, there's also now this other huge thing that now we have to make it official to the community, because everything in Africa, and most especially where I come from, is communal. Mm-hmm. Like when I identify a lady, now she has to make it known to her community. Like, hey guys, listen, I'm taken. I'm no more on the game. I'm out. Right. I'm out of the game. So it was one of those moments. That now we went to her local church. Her dad is a minister with the Assemblies of God. Okay. So typically what we'll do is that we'll go to the ladies' church and we'll make it public at at the church. That's the only time it's official. It's so funny that in America it becomes official when it's on Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny.
Wow.
Back
profound.
at home, it's official when it's announced to the public. Like when people know in church,
Yeah.
your parents know about it. That's now it's official.
That's very telling.
Yeah. So now we were now in this stage whereby we're now making it public to the church, to our local church.
Yeah.
And so it happened that time during the service, one of her dad's friend, he lives in Virginia, and I really honor that man.
Okay.
So he had come to visit, and he was like, I'm just want to pass by, say hi to my friend as I go home.
Okay.
So as he was passing by saying hi to his friend, who is now my dad-in-law, I happen to be now, that time is when I'm being introduced to the congregation.
Sure.
So I'm being introduced, and we talk, and then after the service, I'm like, oh hey. So my dad-in-law introduces me to this gentleman. He's like, hey, meet this guy. He'll be marrying my daughter. And so I greet him, and I'm like, hey, I'm Eddie, and I invite you to a wedding. And sometimes when I say that, probably I'm inviting you not only to come physically, but I still also want your support. Because again, we said that it's communal.
Hey,
So
come to my wedding.
Yeah, come to my wedding. I'm really looking into your support.
Okay.
And so he was graced, and I say it's a miracle. And I just met him for the first time. He gave me $100 bill, which translated into my currency was then equivalent to 10,000 Kenya shillings. So it's a stranger. He doesn't know me. I don't know him. He just gave me 10,000. I mean, that was wow. I was like, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I knew anyway. So we didn't exchange any contacts because he's from America. I don't even think we'll ever meet again.
Okay.
So I kind of now cut it at that point. So fast forward 2019, my dad-in-law now, we got married in 2018. So he calls me and he's like, hey, there's a guy who asked me your number, and he asked me about you, and I gave him your number. I'm just calling you to let you know that I gave your number to someone. He's from the US. In case they call you, I'm the one responsible. I give them your number.
Okay.
So it was kind of to like apologize and also like say,
Heads
I don't know
up.
whether I did the
Yeah,
right thing,
yeah. Something may be coming.
Yeah. And I was like, and to me, because of course, again, my dad-in-law, it's not even a year. It's not even a year. And this is happening. And so after a while, I see a new number. He calls me and I pick up the call and he's like, hey, am I speaking to Eddie Mungai? I'm like, yeah, you're talking to me. He explains himself and he says, I know this might be weird, but there is a school in Massachusetts around Boston, and it's a Bible college, and they're offering like scholarships for international students. Would you be interested to study in the US? And at that time I was married, and I was like, well, I appreciate the opportunity, but allow me to get back to you. So he said, no problem, take your time. So I took my time. I could pray about it, and I talked to my wife about it during that time. I talked to the people that I felt, were important to hear this. And of course, I needed some approvals, most importantly from my wife. And so after a while, that's now just around about either 2 months or 2.5. Like I really took time, which could mean that opportunity could have just gone. But I felt so much peace within me, and I knew that, wait a minute, I didn't ask for this. I didn't go hunting for this opportunity. So if it's mine, I have like a thing that I love saying to myself, let the bird fly. If it's yours, it will certainly come back. Because a bird knows its nest. So I'm kind of a guy who is not anxious in things. I'm never too rushing into things. If I see an opportunity, I'm not necessarily rushing into it. Because what I believe is that if God has ordained this opportunity for me, I mean, it will still come back to me. That's how that's my life.
Let the bird fly.
Let the bird fly.
It'll come
If
back.
it's yours, it will certainly come back because birds know their nests.
All right.
So what happened, I was like, well, let's see how it goes. So I called him after a while. I'm like, hey, I think I'm settled now, and is the opportunity still there? He's like, oh yeah, I've been waiting for your call all this time. And I'm like, well, so what do I do? So immediately that time, Dean Manley was in charge of the enrollment. So he linked me up. He said, okay, well, now I don't want to do any intermediary thing. I want to link you guys up, and then you can take it up from there.
Yeah.
So that's how I came to hear about Northpoint. And apparently now I came to realize later how the whole story went by. So this guy, he is in Virginia. and Northpoint is in Massachusetts.
Right.
Wait a minute. Those are two different locations.
Mm-hmm.
How is that? So I realized now he's telling me later that it happened that the opportunities were there and Dean Manley learned about them. And he talked to his dad who lives in Virginia. And so he said, hey, Dad, there are international students. And I know that probably you could have a couple of friends. Do you have anybody in mind that you think could benefit from this?
Okay.
And the dad is like, well, I don't have one at the top of my mind, but I have a friend who probably could have one. So he talks to my friend.
Yeah.
So he's like, hey, there's this opportunity my son is talking to me about. And so this friend is like, well, I may not have one, but I have a friend. So he talks to my dad. And so now the dad talks to me. And so I realized that I counted all those people, and I realized, so there was the dean of enrollment, there was his dad, there was this guy, there was my dad-in-law, and there was this guy who is seated here right now. I was the fifth guy in the chain. And so I wanted to know, why did you give me this opportunity? You don't know me. We just met once. I actually borrowed you money. I should have been the last guy in your list because probably I was a liability, if anything. And he's like, when I had that call and I received that call that there's an opportunity, immediately the Holy Spirit kept on bringing your face. I never knew your name, but at least I could remember your face. The Holy Spirit kept on bringing your face into my mind. And I didn't know, and I couldn't find peace until the day I contacted you.
Wow.
I was like, wow. And it's amazing because now previously, I kept on telling my wife, hey, I feel like I'm in a season of being in school. I don't know how, but I feel like I'm in a season I need to be in school.
Yeah.
I kept on telling my wife that. And I didn't know how, I didn't know when, and I didn't have the finances, the resources to go into school. But I kept feeling in my spirit that it's a season for me to be in school. I never knew how, I never knew when, I never knew where, but I knew it was a season, not to know that some guy somewhere was being disturbed.
Yeah. Man, it's just like a reminder, like how big God is, how small we are, right?
Yes.
Like you didn't know those can happen.
Absolutely.
But it's also cool, like that the Holy Spirit, like He confirms when He puts something in your heart, like all these other steps took place. That's I actually did not hear that whole story before, so that's the first for me.
It's really amazing.
Now, that's 2019.
Yes.
Got a few more years to cover.
2020 happened.
Yes.
The world stopped.
Oh, man.
Eddie's not in the United States
Absolutely. He doesn't even have a visa.
Wow.
Yeah.
No
So what
visa.
happened?